Mr. Chris Dexter. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so glad to be on the line with you again. We had our,
Yep.
our pre-call, got ourselves all warmed up. Might be the hottest topic of the year on this podcast.
Oh, so much pressure. Thanks.
Well, no problem. I mean, you hired a ton of people a month, and everybody out there is dying to hire people. So we
That's
need to,
right.
we need to
That's
get
right.
in your head. We need to roll around in there and pull out everything we can.
Well, let's see. I hope there's something left in there by the time we're done.
So let me start with this. It's a question my listeners know that I ask all the time. Chris
Oh,
Dexter,
okay.
who the heck are you? And why would you be speaking to this group of construction professionals all around the world?
Well, I'm a HR and general management operational consultant based in the greater Minneapolis, St. Paul area. Gosh, I've traveled all over the country doing this. Army veteran. And I'm here to hopefully give some insight into how to find the right people, really. I mean, these days, I think one of the big things is people, there's all sorts of information out there about, how to hire the right person and vet them properly and fit them into your culture. But today people are like, please just send me bodies. So that's kind of where I'm at today, is to hopefully be able to cast a bigger net and show you where to fish.
Now,
Sorry
when we
about the
talk
analogy.
No, it's a good analogy. I like fishing. Fishing analogies are good, and I think they're good on this show. When we talked last time, you were hiring 8 or 10 people a week. Is that right?
I had, yeah. When I had hired, anywhere from 8 to 10 people a week for a certain company I worked for. Yeah.
Wow, crazy. And you and I met through Michael Kaplan. Some of our listeners will already know him because he ran Zero Res, the carpet cleaning company that he built quite nicely. You were part of the team there.
Exactly.
And part of building a team like that is finding people.
That's right.
Yeah. And, just for a second, let me speak to the audience here. We're talking about, yourself, Chris, you're an expert at helping find people for carpet cleaning, and Michael, expert at building a carpet cleaning company. But the people listening run roofing companies and cabinet making companies and flooring companies and renovations companies. And they might think, why would I care about how this guy hired carpet cleaners? But we're really looking at that same segment of the market. People who want a job, working with their hands, feeling good at the end of the day, working hard, contributing to the team, right?
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And that's one of the things that, from that very same point, that's where I was at every spring. I had to get ahead. I had to get ahead of those roofers and those landscapers because they were all going to hire all my people. Right. And so, I made sure I got in there in February, stuff like that. So, it's the same group of folks. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So how did you do it? That is a pretty tall order, especially, what today's market's like. You're an HR expert. It seems absolutely project stopping impossible to find people, much less good people, much less the right people. How do we unpack that and what actions do we take?
Well, just a little history. I mean, there was a time, even just, 5, 8 years ago, where I didn't have any problem. We could just run an ad on Indeed and people would magically appear at the door. I could offer them a job and they'd take it. But these days, as a consultant, my job is to come into a company or virtually come into the company and kind of triage them. What are you doing now? What's working? What's not? Unfortunately, what I usually find from a lot of companies that are having problems with hiring is that they don't know what's working. They got an idea, they're using Indeed. It's okay that I throw out names, I assume.
Oh, yeah. We all use I think everybody here uses Indeed. And if you've got any other suggestions, please lay them on the line. We need them.
Yeah. But these are the same companies that they're doing great on the bottom line. They're answering the phone when the customer calls. They have metrics like you can't imagine. Well, you could imagine. They have all these metrics, right? They have all these metrics for answering the phone, and how many times does it ring, and how many people are on hold, and what's the average call waiting, et cetera. They got that all drilled down. And if I was to ask them, well, what's your average response rate for a candidate once their email appears in your inbox? but we try to get back to them as soon as we can. That's great. I don't expect you to have it drilled down to the second like you can with Five9 or all these call center type programs, et cetera. But you better be able to give me an answer. We contact that person within hours of receiving their inquiry about our employment, et cetera. But that's really the first thing is what's your plan?
Right.
These are companies that talk about customer service. They talk about profitability. I hope they talk about safety too, because safety is a big part of HR consulting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But they've got all this drilled down. They've got people that are putting budgets together, et cetera. Where's your hiring plan? Where's your budget for hiring? Right. I know you're budgeting for marketing. I know you're budgeting for...
hold on, a budget for hiring.
Yeah,
I know what I hear. I hear all the time. Can you believe Indeed charged us $300 this week? That's crazy. I don't want to spend that. And to which I respond, okay, yeah, well, you're just not going to find anybody.
Well, especially if you're not doing anything with it.
It's the price to play. Oh, that's right. Yeah, if you're not doing anything with the budget.
Yeah, Indeed is a great resource. I use a site called Better Team, betterteam.com, and I think there's still, I don't know, $300-400 a year, and that gets you 10 postings. And of course, their website, when you go to their web page, it splashes across and it shows everybody uses them for hiring. It's got all the icons and everything like that. But the vast majority of resumes I get from them come from Indeed. I can tell by the format. It's Arial 12-point font. It's left justified there. It's an Indeed resume. Sure. We all know
so the user, my construction laborer or my carpenter doesn't need to know about betterteam.com. Wherever they post their resume, Better Team amalgamate, or what do you call it? They collect it and funnel it to you.
Yeah. I think they're just a better mousetrap.
Okay. Neat.
And so the thing that I do with them, and just to, I don't want to get into the weeds, is I post different. I post the same ad, 10 different places. So if I was in Minneapolis, I would post my ad for that same position in 10 different cities, 10 different suburbs. Okay. I know I've only got one location. It's in downtown Minneapolis or wherever it is, but I'm going to post it all over because I'm betting on the fact that when that person that I want to hire opens up his phone or her phone, it's going to show them the ad that's closest to them.
I see.
Indeed has, as many have, they've figured this out. And so if you post 10 of the exact same ads with 10 different addresses, they'll only show you one. But because I'm kind of a nerd, I drove all over the Twin Cities and I opened my phone, and sure enough, the one that I had posted in a western suburb was the one that showed up. And the one that I had posted in an eastern suburb when I was in the eastern burbs showed up. And it'll tell me on Indeed, it says, hey, there's 12 other similar ads just like this, but we just showed you the one.
Oh, okay. So Indeed doesn't stop you from posting the ad. It just brings up, it doesn't bring up the other 9. It just brings up the one is your point.
Yeah. And it seems to bring up the one that's closer to me. And I've had some success with that. And that's once again, if we go back to budgeting, how much do I want to spend? Well, Indeed can cost thousands of dollars a month, and Better Teams is $400 a year.
Right.
So I like that. And I seem to get all the advantages of Indeed, other than...
Oh, you're saying Better Teams for $400 a year, I'm getting on Indeed anyway.
Correct. But you're not getting something that I think I still love Indeed, because with Indeed, I get sponsored ads. And we look at those from an HR standpoint, and we're like, I'm already spending $2,000 a month. I don't want to sponsor some ad. And it's like, well, it's worth your while. I mean, if you want to get views,
we need applicants, Chris. It is so bad right now. We're going out there and we're signing contracts. It's never been easier to get business. It's a beautiful time to be in business. It's easy to get business. It's hard to get people to help us fulfill those jobs.
Yeah, and that's why I think we go back to budgeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, budgeting was where I was going to go with this too, is Michael Kaplan brought up, treat your employees or recruiting employees like a second customer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? If a man in a van or a person in a van is going to make you $1,000 or $2,000 a day, why wouldn't you approach that as if it was a sales opportunity and say, how can I get that $1,000 a day in my pocket? And we need it. We need it. So we need to, so the budget, if I said, spend $1,000 on online advertising to bring you somebody who's going to generate $1,000 a day, 250 days a year, those are better than Vegas odds. You got to do
there. You go. I mean, yeah, carpet cleaners, 250 to 200 to $250,000 a year. Electricians, 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Depending on the skilled trades. Let's not even get into skilled trades.
Great.
That's a totally different discussion. But back to budgeting a little bit. So how much are we going to spend? And what are you going to get for it? And so one of the things that I'd like to talk about is how to properly use Craigslist.
Okay.
Because a lot of and how did I get so wise about it, right, Dominique? Well, about 2016, I think, Amazon moved into the Twin Cities. Bum, bum, bum. Here comes Big A. They've moved into the Twin Cities and they're sucking up all the jobs. They're taking my employees. And so I thought, I wonder how they're using Craigslist. And I went to Craigslist, I typed in Amazon, and they had warehouse specialists or whatever they called it. Mm-hmm. And this was probably like 4 PM. I decided to do this. And they had posted for the same job 6 to 7 times that day for $40 each. So they spent $240 that day for that one position. And it hit me. Craigslist is like surfing. You got to stay on top of the wave. Every time you post that position, it goes to the top. And most of my customers, they're like, well, we need to post on Craigslist. I'm like, you are exactly right. All right. And they're like, well, we usually do it on Tuesdays. Just once? Yeah. What's $40, And so I look at that.
Yeah,
it does. But what I found with Craigslist and this method is I would spend the $240 a day. Now I'm looking at a budget. Let's say we don't have that kind of money. So I just am going to post 4 times a day. Back in the good old days, 2010, it was free. In some markets, it's a lot. In some
markets, it's free. In some markets, it's through the roof.
It's $45 here in the Twin Cities now.
When you say Craigslist, does Kijiji fall in the same, like, have you heard of Kijiji?
I haven't.
Okay, it's an eBay. I think it's an eBay spin-off company. In some cities that I know are Kijiji cities, and other cities are Craigslist cities.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kijiji. I think.
Kijiji.
Yeah, Kijiji.
Sounds like a children's song.
I know it doesn't. How do you take these things seriously, right? I mean, how do we take the word Google seriously?
Well, yeah, we do now.
Yeah, do we ever?
Maybe back in 1995 we didn't.
So what I do is you invest. You set aside a budget. You say we're going to post 4 times a day, and it's $40 a post. So this is how much.
Exactly. I know I'm going to spend $160, or let's just do it 3 times a day. Let's see what we get for it, even twice a day, whatever it is. I don't have to do it every day. There's some science to the fact that, well, Tuesdays are great days or Thursdays are great days. That seems like a lot of work. I really don't know. But what I do is I create a custom link. It's a little tricky with Craigslist because they don't like you to do that. They don't want you to post separate links within their site for people to link to. But it does work out. I mean, it takes a little bit of work, but not too much. If I can do it, believe me, it's not that difficult. But then I find out every time I post one, okay, and this becomes the other crucial part. Part of your budget you need an ATS.
What's an ATS?
An applicant tracking system. I like Recruiter Box. They were just sold a year ago, but there's got to be a whole bunch of others like that. I like Recruiter Box just because I guess I'm used to it, but there's a dozen others, I'm sure. And they shouldn't be that much. When I first started with Recruiter Box, they were $10 opening a month or something like that. And that was in 2014, 15. I think it's $1,200 a year or something like that.
So you don't need this, but it's good to have so you can track your applicants.
You should. And Indeed has a built-in ATS, but it's only for Indeed. The thing about my ATS being Recruiter Box, just to throw out the name again, is the fact that I can funnel everything in there. And again, RecruiterBox has done it right. It knows where my applicants are coming from. So if I funnel everything to it, it knows that came from Craigslist, that came from Indeed, that came from ZipRecruiter, et cetera. So I can see where my success is coming from. And right away with this method, I found out that Craigslist was producing like 1.7 applicants per post.
I just love information like that.
I do too.
So Craigslist gave you 1.7 applicants per post.
Correct. And I knew, because I take hiring seriously and have a budget around it. And we talk about it as much, if not more than we do P&L or customer service or anything else. I know that it takes me 16 to 17 applicants to hire one person. Well, let's call it 15. It's easier to do the math.
Sure.
People are like, well, that's not true. I mean, gosh, we hire almost everybody we get in here. That's true. How many of your applicants do you actually get in here? Well, half of them never show up. And I can't tell you how many I've had. I'd say about half the people I interview who accept the job. They are super excited, Dominique.
And they still never show up.
And then they just show up for their first day, and I call them, and my next door neighbor's cousin's taxidermist had the flu, and so they've always got some convoluted excuse. And I love to give them a second chance, just because I don't know, sure, come on back in, we'll start you tomorrow. That's not a big deal. And I always tell them too, I'm probably not going to see you though. So, but you let me know in the future. I will contact that person again. I absolutely will.
I was going to ask, in this ATS, which is like not to throw out too many acronyms, but it's like a CRM. It's a way to track leads, right? A CRM is customer relationship management. And I think
that's right.
More people on this podcast would understand a CRM is how you take the Jones phone you or send you an email. And so you start to talk to the Jones and keep notes about them in a computer program about renovating their kitchen or doing their roof or building their cabinets. So an ATS is just the same thing on the employee side.
Correct. And I complete a task I call mining the ATS.
I was going to ask if you do that, if you go back to old applicants and say, hey, are you bored with that job at the pet store yet?
I do crazy things because I like crazy things because I think I want to attract crazy people. Seriously, I want somebody who's got a sense of humor.
So do I. If you listen to this show, you'll know that because I'm shameless with my attempts.
I've got, so in my ATS, it allows me to, put people who are interested or people who applied, people got to certain steps. Now with an ATS, I can have certain steps that are lined up. They did a phone interview, they did a ride along, they came in, whatever it was. And so what I'll do is of the people that interviewed, accepted the position, and then failed to show up, okay, that's a specific candidate. I might have 24 people in that specific category over a 3-month period, let's say.
Okay, I see.
I'll send them an email. And of course, the ATS allows me to put in their first name. It does all that by a form letter, and it'll say, Dear Javon, I'm worried sick. I missed you on your first day of employment, and we've all been just terribly worried. How are you?
And it sounds so genuine and one-to-one, and then you resurrect that lead.
They get it. They get I'm being, I'll say right in there, hey, I'm just kidding. Things happen. If you're still looking for work, we've got a great job for you. You were here once before, you know how awesome we are. Come on back in again. We'd love to give you a second chance. Wow. If I get 1 out of 24, I'm a winner.
It's another applicant that day. In a lot of cases, we're not getting applicants.
That's right. And I might get something else. He's like, Javon will tell his buddy, he's just like, Henry, this company is nuts. You should work there.
You're nuts.
So I might get a referral from it or something like that. Now, I want to go back to Craigslist for a second too. And that is, I like to post and Craigslist, Indeed, etc. One of the things I noticed about Amazon, when you go to their Craigslist ad, it's like, we've got great jobs, click here to apply. And when I go to most employers, most employers, when I go to their Indeed site, they're like, well, show me what you've got. And it's like, it was a dark and stormy night when we started our company back in 1991. And it's got this long description of the company. Yeah. It's got an even longer job description. And all I want them to do is click and apply. I really don't. I mean,
I don't care about the background of the founder's story, and they can find that at other places. Yeah.
Yeah. And some companies immediately, it'll like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Well, it does. I want them to, because we want them to be proud. We want to build a culture.
That's right.
We want to attract people to a culture. But I think what you're saying is, yes, but we want them to apply first. Then we'll tell them about the culture.
That's right. That's right.
And to apply, it has to appeal to them. We've got great jobs. Well, I want a great job, so I'll apply.
And that's what Amazon does. Amazon, don't bury the lead. $15 to $20 an hour, $22.50 an hour to start. No experience needed. Healthcare, dental, 401k, you name it, all the way down. Click here to apply. Dude's just going to look at that and think, I'm only making $19.50 now. 22 sounds pretty good. Click. Yeah. But if he's got to read all this stuff and it's got like, must be able to lift 75 pounds and additional duties as needed, it's like they're not going to read all that. No. So that's it. Make sure that your ads are short and sweet, because you're advertising a job. You're not. This isn't OSHA, and I don't have to submit a job description. That's one of the first things that I like to do is I like to write a good ad. I write different ads. I write fun ads, crazy ads,
long ads, short ads. I like to test different types of ads too, because I'm a business coach and I'm like, let's put out an ad that speaks to our culture and draws the right person who's going to be proud of the job. And then even I get frustrated. I'm like, this one's not working. Run a short ad. Carpenter needed, flexible hours, must have own truck. And guess what? We get responses to that ad too. So we don't have to overcomplicate things. And my ego has to get out of the way. Just because my business coach trained, right? Isn't that true?
Right. Yeah.
Like, we're trying to do a job here, not worry about my ego. If that ad's not working, change the ad.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I write different ones. I post different ones. Craigslist, it's got them all. I wrote a Star Wars ad. Yeah. At the beginning of Star Wars, it's got that text, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. Oh, you did one of those?
So I just did one of those. I rewrote that text, that prose from the beginning of that, from the Star Wars.
So I do. So here's what I'll do on that same angle. I don't know how to write ads, but there are other people out there that are great at writing ads. So let's say I'm in Chicago and you're in Minneapolis. So I'm in Chicago and I need to run an ad. I'm going to go to Minneapolis Craigslist and I'm going to see who's running ads similar to mine. I'll read them all and I'll go, hey, I kind of like what that guy wrote there in Minneapolis.
That's right.
Copy and paste, and then I'll edit it because, plagiarism. But I edit it. It just gives me enough of goalposts that I know how to make my ad sound good. And then I run that in Chicago or run it in Detroit or in Houston. Yeah.
Yep. I run them culturally.
Tell me about that. What's that mean?
Well, some field-based positions, or companies such as carpet cleaning or movers or these types of jobs. These people, this is their day gig. And years ago, a young man named Brawley applied, and his real job was banjo player. And I also had a writer. And he told me at his interview that he'd been working as a custodian for a large building maintenance company. And he liked this contemplative time where he was just alone with his own thoughts. Yeah, of cleaning. Yeah. He made a perfect carpet cleaner. So I wrote an ad that was banjo player needed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I got some like, that's crazy. But I really loved your ad. So I try to write it from a cultural standpoint. Take a look at my current staff and what are their other interests, and say, hey, obviously we're we're a home technician company. We clean air ducts. We provide lawn mowing, whatever it is. This is what we do. But you know what? We want you to do what you really love. And this is a great day gig for you. And that's from a cultural standpoint for something that's more artistic. I may do something that's more family driven. Whatever. The idea is that I need a lot of arrows in my quiver. And most companies, but you got to keep firing them down range. And a lot of companies, they have one big arrow, the Indeed arrow, boing, and they shoot that one down range, and it's like that's all they're getting. So the lessons from Amazon on Craigslist are post frequently, post short ads, even on Indeed. Okay. First thing I do is whether it's Indeed or ZipRecruiter is I shorten that ad down to, a couple hundred words, list them, don't bury the lead, list the benefits, and sit back and collect.
Sorry, don't bury the lead. Okay, what is the lead where you're talking about hourly or salary?
Pay.
The pay.
Yep.
The pay. That's why they're looking for a job.
Correct.
Yeah. Let me do this then. We've talked about Craigslist. We've talked about Indeed. We've talked about Better Team. That's where people are going to look for jobs. Do you have any tools or ideas for people that aren't looking, but still want? Oh, see, you jumped on that one. Yeah. So do you know what I mean? It's a guy who's our perfect employee, but he's not looking for another job unless, something catches his or her interest. What do you do in that situation?
They might be yearning for another job.
But not but not going to look on Craigslist or Indeed.
Because their yearning might be at the urinal. So
I was wondering where you're going with that. Very specific word, Chris. It was very specific. Okay. So humor-wise, you're lined up perfectly with this show because these guys are all shell-shocked by my bad humor, and you're lining up very nicely.
Just my sister told me the other day that she and her husband were going to the window and doors place, and I've been preparing for our little talk today, and I said, "Oh, you're looking for a job?" And she's like, "What?" I said, "Well, yeah, you're going to the window and door place. So you're looking for a job." She's like, "Why would you ask that?" Because they have a lot of openings. Okay.
Oh, hey. No, it's good.
Okay. There is a company here in the Twin Cities called Indoor Advertising. I can't remember what they're called. He's going to kill me that I didn't give him a shout out for the right name. But they're the ones who put the ads above urinals.
Right.
And so if I want that passive candidate, they're not looking for a job. But guess what? I've got them for maybe 15 seconds.
Oh, so you're not posting this in your own shop. There's a company out there who has a network of posters above urinals at nightclubs and bars and sports facilities.
Some of them are digital. They're digital.
Hopefully they're high up.
I just hope it's not touch sensitive.
I was going to say, yeah, but I like this. So it's a poster board or a frame that's above the urinals in all sorts of locations. I can see them at hockey rinks and all that stuff. Yep. And that's where the ad is. Okay, that's a great idea.
And, if you want to put out more information, maybe a longer job description, you can put it on the inside of the door. I'm kidding. But they do that. Of course they do.
Yeah.
So that's one way to reach passive candidates. And I don't know that I get a lot. I can't measure that very well. I ask at interview, "Hey, where did you see our ad?"
And they don't remember.
Yeah, they don't remember, but I know for a fact that at least I get some exposure, not to use that at the same, whatever.
No, I got you.
Thank you. But I do get that recognition, et cetera. Now, the other thing that Indeed this is why you need Indeed. Indeed has, and I haven't used a whole lot of other sites for this, but where I can create a campaign in Indeed. And I can put in my job description. I can put in, I need siders. I need people who install windows and siding and whatever else it is, exteriors. And I post my job and it's like, "Hey, do you want to start a campaign?" Well, sure. We'll find people who have they'll use their database. They'll go through all of their information and say, "Guess what? Here's all the people that are siding installers that have their resume on Indeed, and it'll tell me it was updated within the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is.
So, you know,
that's right. And so what I do is I go ahead and I set up the criteria and I run it, and it says, here's the 100, 200, whatever it is, best candidates. They're not looking for jobs. They haven't reached out to me, but their resume's up there and it looks like they've updated it within the last few weeks. So I create a list. I reach out to them and say, hey, I found your, and they've got templates all over this.
Sure,
right?
sure.
And typically what I'll do is I'll create an email and I'll email, I don't know, all 50 of them at once. And then I don't leave them alone. Just like we wouldn't when we advertise our services. It's not like a business that cleans windows or whatever service that we offer in-home services for. They just send out, one, advertising circular.
They pulse them out.
Dozens.
It goes out. Yeah. So a drip campaign, you continue to market yourself to them, is what you're saying.
And I do the same thing. I'll send out, if I've got a list, one of my customers is an electrician. And so nice thing about the trades, especially with electricians, is it's regulated by the state, and the state publishes a list of everybody who's a journeyman electrician in the state with their address.
Oh,
so that has thousands of names on it. So I took the last 10 years of when people first got certified. I know this guy's only been a journeyman for 10 years. I came up with 2,200 names and I sent them all a postcard. And I used a company called Postcard Mania down in Tampa. Nice, super responsive. And the reason I went with them is they answered their damn phone.
so simple. Yeah.
Yeah. And got back to me right away.
Yeah.
Super group down there. And for 50 cents each, they mailed them. I had them out in 10 days. But I'm not going to get response on that right away, but I'm going to send those out 5 times in the next 7 months.
Well, that's the key with direct mail. And thank you for saying that is, don't send one direct mail piece, a postcard, and expect to get a response. You've got to pulse that out or drip that out to everybody a couple times. And eventually it'll hit the right person at the right time. They'll go, I've seen this before, so I trust them. Let me give them a call and see if this is real.
Yep. And I think for the 2,000 postcards or 2,200 between mailing and, I don't know, I might have spent $1,200 because there were some other costs because I paid for some design work. There was a time when I would do all the design work and everything, and I could care less today. They're the professionals. I'm not going to micromanage this project or be a perfectionist. I let them pick the graphics and everything because I want to get it in my potential employee's hand. It's not about me, shockingly.
There's 2 kinds of marketing pieces, Chris. You probably learned this. The kind the owner likes or the decision maker likes, and the one that works. And they're usually 2 different marketing pieces.
I've never heard that, but
it's the reality.
I've lived it.
I've lived it. I've been it, and I've tried to manage it too. And I now go into meetings with business owners. I'm like, look, there's 2 kinds of ads. There's the ad you like, and there's the ad that's going to work. They're never the same.
Right.
And they chuckle, ha, Dom. And I'm like, all right, let's go through the process.
Yeah.
And then, the reality is whatever works with the customer, in this case, it's an applicant. That's what we care about. Again, get your ego out of the way. Hey, by the way, these electricians, were you hiring for electricians or were you trying to convert them into another trade?
No, I was hiring for journeyman electricians. And there's a devil of it. I mean, as you've seen all over the news, there's just
a shortage.
Plumbers, electricians, anybody in this skilled trade, licensed folks like that, really difficult for all sorts of different reasons, but they're out there.
It's not like they don't exist. They're just not applying. And that's the key. We have to find them. So I like this.
It was funny. I was on my way home from the gym today and I heard yet another show about hiring on public radio. And they were talking about, compensation. There's something I wanted to mention too in about hiring, and that, as a consultant, I'm supposed to come in and first you need to change everything about your company, sir, and then we'll attract employees. It's like, well, Chris, thank you. I sure appreciate that, but I need employees now. I don't need employees to work at this fantasy company that you're going to create 18 months from now.
Right.
I need them today. That's right.
Yeah.
But we should do it concurrently. The whole point of this show today was, as we all know, it's not about just about wages. It's about work-life balance and everything else like that. And it's not about food, just because we have breakfast bars and monster drinks or whatever else it is, that's not going to keep people. I think it's okay. I think it's
you know what? And Michael Kaplan brought this up. He's like, have a barbecue. He says, I can't tell you the value of my Weber barbecue, but having a barbecue, inviting everybody down to the shop or the site to have hot dogs and bring their friend or bring their family on special occasions. But
we did it.
Do those things to socialize. Right.
Yep. I hired a young man, and I asked him to come for the interview, and he's like, okay, what day? I was like, well, come in on Thursday at 4:00. And he showed up and he's like, came to find me. He's like, is my interview today? I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. Well, we were having a picnic that day. I purposely invited him to come in on the day of our picnic, got him something to eat. I hooked him up with somebody else and said, go talk to so-and-so, have a plate of food, sit him down. And it's not some subterfuge.
It's just meet the company and then we'll do your interview after.
That's right. I think he ended up working there 4 or 5 years, something like that. But because I'm so wonderful, Dominique. No. It wasn't because of that.
But you're following a system, and as you said, and our working title was "Take Hiring Seriously." But I think I'm going to change this to how I hire 10 people a month.
Yeah, well, and sometimes it would be 7 a week.
Yeah, same thing. I had to do that same thing. I was trying to, in one of my previous companies, I had a call center, and I was competing with Wendy's, which was down the block. We had an A-frame sign, so anybody that drove to Wendy's to apply for a job also came to us because we were on the path. But I had to hire a ton of people a week, and we just had to take it seriously. Really focus on it. You can't just throw it off the side of your desk and hope and dream. This has to be done. We need those people. So let's, follow your advice here and do the same thing. How do we? Well,
and that's where the metrics come in too. And not to harp on Craigslist because it's expensive, although it works, is that if I knew it was going to take that I got 2 applicants basically with every post, and I needed 16 or 17 to hire one person, all I have to do is do the math and think, well, gosh, if I spend this much money in this amount of time, I'll hire 10 people.
That's right. The math just works. Yep. It always does.
I had to have 170 applicants. I just divide that by the number of days I posted, whatever else it is. And it worked. Well, the vacancy, a vacancy, like we said, carpet cleaner might generate $250,000 a year.
That's insane. And we know what a man in a van or a person in a van costs for us, regardless of what our trade is, because we know how much a job costs. When we charge the Jones or the Smith or the Chan family this much to do the job, and it takes 10 days, just divide it by 10. That's what it's worth for you to have 1 or 2 employees on that site.
Yeah. So you should also know how much it costs to hire somebody.
The acquisition cost per employee.
Yeah. And that's where turnover comes in. I mean, when our turnover is 200%, we've got a problem with culture. But again, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We need to get people in here now. We can work on the culture, et cetera. And that's really where I try to focus, like I said, and encourage companies to focus is kind of do a triage. Let's find out where you're at right now. What do we need to do today? To get some people in the door.
Well, what a great segue. Because if people want to do that triage or they want to find out more about you, how would we find Chris Dexter in this wide world to continue the conversation? How do we find
I would just, you can look for me on LinkedIn, Chris Dexter, or my business name is Apremma, Apremma, which is my daughter's names, April and Emma, smashed together.
Very nice. That's a good dad.
Yeah, I could have made Empril, but that sounded like sort of like a drug, like a diuretic.
Yeah. Did you tell the girls that?
You've heard that story too many times.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Shockingly.
Yeah. I appreciate having you here, and it's so timely. It is incredibly timely because, as I've said, and as we've all seen, it is easy to get work right now. It is hard to find the people to do that work. Or said another way, it's easy for us to go out there and make promises to build high quality projects, work we're proud of. It's hard to find people to help us do that. And really, a company is just a collection of systems where we deliver on promises. And so if one of those two pieces is broken, we don't have a company. So we need people, and we need guys like you, Chris, telling us how to get out there and find them.
Sure. Happy to help. I'm sure glad you had me. It was great being here.
It's been excellent. I have so many insights and so many great tips. I appreciate it. And perhaps in the future, we'll have you back again.
Be happy to do so.
Great. Well, thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dominique. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.